Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. We are talking obscure animation, and today it's very fun. This month we are talking about a whole studio. So very fun. It's kind of like when we did the Russian studio.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the Nutcracker film. We are talking about UPA, which was a studio in the from the 40s all the way to the 70s and then of the 70s. And I'm really excited to talk about it. I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Stanford is here.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing well. I'm just here at home.
Yeah.
I haven't been out much. But I'm safe and well, and I hope the same for you, Rachel.
Yes, I'm safe. I just had a doctor's visit today. Virtual, whatever, video conferencing.
Yes.
Doctor's visit, and they're really pleased with my progress. And
oh, good.
that makes me happy. And
absolutely.
So, yeah. And the reason why I got this idea was because I did for Criterion Project, I did an episode this week on Watership Down.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen Watership Down.
Yes.
But on the Criterion channel, they have the interviews with Guillermo del Toro about Watership Down. And in the interview, he was saying how the Watership Down kind of represents sort of the transition of UPA into more modern animation. And he was talking about UPA. I'm like, what is UPA? UPA. He's talking about UPA. And so I looked it up and I was like, oh, this sounds really interesting. I think it would be a fun thing to talk about. And you were up for it. So it was
absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. So United Productions of America. Was this something you were familiar with, or did you have to Google it like I did?
No, I was familiar with it, but I did still Google it because I, of course, wanted to get more complete information. I have heard a lot of talk over the years about the UPA style, and I recognize it partly because I'm familiar with Mr. Magoo cartoons and also just kind of that really interesting aesthetic from kind of mid-century. That I know that where it was where the UPA style was so influential.
Yeah.
And so this has really been fun to learn more and then to explore more of these short films.
Yeah. And I had actually reviewed for Obscure Animation Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol.
Yes, that's right. You should, yeah.
Yeah. When I first started the series, it was when I was more of like I would say more of a YouTuber than a podcaster. Now I'm more of a podcaster than a YouTuber. And so originally the series was edited reviews, edited videos. And so this was 2016. I reviewed Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol for Obscure Animation. And I'll put a link down if you want to watch that review. But of course I really enjoyed it. And I think it's underrated. We'll talk more about it, but because obviously Christmas movies are my other kind of world.
Well, exactly.
And I would say
like it's Rachel's jam, to have this Christmas.
Yeah.
And Christmas in July too, which I think is a fun.
Yeah, and it was
thing.
Really fun to watch it, and I loved watching it. And I would say it's one of the more underrated versions of Christmas Carol. And it has some really neat aspects to it. And so, yeah, they have a really interesting visual style. I think that you could kind of compare it to the Xerox films from Disney a little bit, but I think that they're like the best parts of the Xerox films, but for the whole movie, as far as artistically.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially some of them, like the dancing scenes in Aristocats, where they have the blocks of color coming in and out and in and out, and the way that they use the sketchy animation there.
Yeah,
the color. It reminded me a lot of kind of this style, this studio.
Oh yeah, me too. And also really, I was thinking a lot about 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah.
That just given that highly graphic style of that film, too. Again, not some.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily influenced by, or they would admit right. It was influenced by UPA, but still, I felt it had that same kind of aesthetic in a lot of ways.
Yeah, you can really see what
the backgrounds.
You can see what Del Toro was talking about, how Watership Down, with its sort of meshing of hand-drawn animation and you know, like the way that it kind of meshes more the sketchy style with a more fluid style.
Yes,
that you can see what he was saying as far as it being a bridge from UPA over to something like Fox and the Hound, for instance, which would have been like 2 years later then, or something like the Don Bluth films of the 80s.
Yes.
You see how Watership Down is really kind of right in the middle there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. They worked with the Toho Studios in Japan for
that was interesting that they distributed the films from Toho in the 70s and the 80s, and you know, these kaiju movies, right? These monster movies and stuff. And you know, I thought, well, I'm gonna have to try to find one of those, see if I can just see like is there a title card or some kind of, you know, as UPA listed in the credits. I thought that was fascinating. So I guess they stopped the way and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Rachel, but what I had read is that they had pretty much stopped doing animation in the early 70s, and then did this film distribution, and then they just kind of, the company just kind of
by the end of the 70s
went out of business.
And
yeah,
I mean, Toho is still going strong.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, Toho is still
they work with Studio Ghibli a lot, with a bunch of other anime of the I mean, it's a company going all the way back to the 30s, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That is still, I think that they were involved with releasing Rango, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, interesting.
Rango,
yeah.
Toho.
Yeah.
I could be wrong about that, but I recall that. But another one that we talked about in Obscure Animation was Summer Wars. They did that.
Yeah, that was Toho. Yeah.
And I think Rango was 2000. And what year was that? Anyway, that's what I just remember. But yeah, they have they had My Hero Academia a movie this year, which was actually really good. Weathering with You, Ride Your Wave.
Yeah.
They have the new Lupin the Third coming out, which looks great.
Which looks so good.
Yeah.
It's a CGI Lupin, and I think it looks really cool.
Agreed. I thought I did a trailer action ages ago, it seems like, but I think it looks. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting. It was an interesting relationship that they had there, and so now we'll start diving. We're going to talk about some shorts, and then we're going to try to do another obscure animation. We're not sure when, but we'll do one of their feature films, Gay Paris, which features Judy Garland. Purry.
Yeah.
I like purr.
She's a cat.
Yeah, and so
she kind of looks like she's a white cat. She kind of looks like Duchess from the Aristocats.
Yeah, she does. Yeah,
but a UPA style.
Yeah, so I'm excited to watch that. I've heard about it, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, so I'm excited to watch it again because I've seen it. You know, they played it on Turner Classic Movies, and then, you know, speaking of Turner Classic Movies, I've got that copy on order of the other UPA feature, 1001 Arabian Nights.
Yeah. So we will definitely we'll have some. Let us know what you think about doing those films. But today we're just talking about the shorts.
Yeah, the UPA shorts
slash specials.
Yes,
and
right.
So the first one that we're going to talk about is The Telltale Heart. And this is really interesting because it was actually given an X rating that was the first film, animated film from for the UK, which I think it's a little bit different. I don't think I think it's their sort of R rating. I don't think that it's like RX rating, which is like pornography.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was an X certificate in the UK, which was the first cartoon to get that. It was 1953, so it was a different time as well. And it's based on the poem or the lyrical poem.
Yeah, by Edgar Allan Poe.
Yes, and I've been watching this and I'm thinking, should we have assigned this Stanford? Because
I know, right? I'm such the horror movie wuss of all time. I hate them so much. But this was super creepy, but yet it was so artistically interesting.
Yeah. This was I loved it. And I don't think
I was just wowed by it.
It was very creepy, very scary, but I mean it certainly wouldn't get an R rating today.
Oh no.
No way. It would, I mean, maybe PG-13, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Because nothing gets PG anymore.
Right.
But yeah, I think that from the very beginning, one of my favorite parts of the whole short is that you see the eye of the dead man that turns into the moon in one long shot. And now we talk so much about long shots, but one takes, that people are always talking one takes. This has so many one takes that the camera will move from, like I said, from an eye in one take, move to the moon. And and the way that it was just constantly kind of, the camera was moving was so cool.
Oh, I agree. And I loved the almost like the very different styles of art that were all integrated into it, because some of the art looked very almost three-dimensional. And again, this was released in 1953, and it really looked like it, but I mean that as a total compliment. Just again, you can see that aesthetic. And then other times there was just like some simple line drawings.
Yeah.
Some other things that were all integrated into the storytelling. James Mason is the narrator, which is such a perfect choice.
Yeah.
Because I think he's such a good actor, and it's got such a good voice too for it.
And like great scenes, like there's a point where you see a clock, and it says, and the narrator says, "How time slowed," and the image of the clock stays there almost like it's cellophane over the rest of the images for so long. That's what I'm saying about this one take. You just see the clock fading, but you still see this kind of like a cellophane kind of image over the everything else, the how time slowed. And it was so cool. It was uncomfortable how slow. You're like, this needs to be off the screen now. Why am I still seeing
really adds to the tension of it,
the residue of this clock for so long. And I thought that was very cool. And also you have several scenes where it stays black for a long time.
Yeah. So some of the action that is happening is you're not seeing it.
Yeah. And it just says, for a while I didn't move a muscle, and it is black.
Yeah.
Which is so effective.
It is. It's incredibly effective.
I counted, it was almost a whole minute of just black.
Isn't that something?
Which was really good. And then like as you start to see this kind of crinkly kind of look to it, and boom, 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 boom. And that was really effective, I thought.
Yeah. It's
louder and louder and louder.
And and I think that's another good thing to bring up too, Rachel, is that because not only is the animation stunning, but so is the all the sound effects. I think that those they really play into this too. Yeah.
If you want to, it kind of it reminded me of on the Toy Story of Terror. I don't know if you ever saw that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I actually really enjoy it. And
I love that one too. That's a lot of fun. Yeah.
And they have a whole special feature of showing the sound design people, you know, where like they literally are recording them walking on gravel, or, you know, popping a balloon, or, you know, just all the different, they have their literal bag of tricks with their different sound. It's pretty fun. One of the special features on there, and you could almost feel that here, that somebody walking on gravel, somebody, you know, coming up the stairs, creak, 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 kind of a thing, as opposed to now where a lot of that probably is just stored digitally, and they don't take the time to kind of make those authentic, organic sounds that, you know, that's one thing I love in Akira. If we should do an obscure animation on Akira, but
for sure,
the sound design is
it's pretty
amazing.
It's pretty amazing in that film.
In that movie, and I loved that here. It was really good, and you just see, I love the way they did the heart vessels, and it, you know, it's pound, 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 and you see it, and it almost looks like a crinkled up piece of paper.
Yeah,
sort of. That's been sort of dyed. I don't know, just like it looked kind of crinkly, and it just gets bigger and louder. And I thought that it was very. He's like, I had to stop it. And then you see these sort of. It's hard to explain, but there's sort of this blanket that has all these diamonds on it, and then the diamonds sort of twist and turn until it turns into stripes, and the way the camera kind of moved, it goes from like up way high in the ceiling all the way down to the people and their eyes, and all you see is their eyes. And I thought all that was so effective.
Oh, I know, right? I was just really in awe of the whole of the whole thing, and super creepy, of course, but I was less creeped out and more just fascinated by the artistry of it.
Yeah, drip, drip, beat, beat, drip, drip, beat, beat, and then he's finally like, "Stop it! Stop it, you devils! Yeah, yes, I did it." And so yeah, it's really good if you like, you know, sort of spooky stories, a little bit of mystery, a little bit of intrigue. Really great animation. I highly recommend it. It was nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen the Disney. It was a Disney short that beat them, if I recall, or it was Tom and Jerry. I can't remember. I lost track. But I just think it's tremendous. I really, really, really loved this short. I thought it was so good.
Yeah, me too. Really, really, really wowed by it.
Yeah, it lost to Toot, Whistle, Plunk, and Boom from the Walt Disney Productions.
Which is terrific too. A little different in tone.
Yeah.
That one, if I'm not mistaken, has got Ivan Earl work. You know, the guy who was the basically the art director of Sleeping Beauty.
Right.
Because I love his work. In fact, some of the work in Telltale Heart, I thought was kind of reminiscent of some Ivan Earl paintings I've seen, which is one thing, you know, saying it just felt like it was from the mid 50s.
I just love animated shorts so much.
Aren't they great?
I really do. I mean, except for at Sundance, that's the only time I don't like animated shorts.
Well, yeah,
they're terrible. But for the most part, I just love animated shorts.
Yeah. Well, and I just love exploring some of these older ones.
I do too.
These other really ones that we watched were so. Every one of them, even that commercial one, which we'll talk about, were fun. You know, they were really interesting.
Yeah, it really gets down to what's fun about obscure animation for sure. All right, then we had Rooty-Toot-Toot. And this was really fun too. I thought the People versus Frankie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah. So basically, you have that Frankie and I guess it was a popular song, Frankie and Johnny.
Frankie and Johnny are sweethearts. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I thought it was the character design in this was very interesting. I thought that her lawyer looked like a chicken.
Oh yeah.
You agree?
Absolutely. Oh, totally. He looked like a chicken. And then her look was so interesting too, because she had like that big red bow in her hair
Mm-hmm.
that was almost transparent too.
Yeah.
And I loved how it moved with her, as her head
Yeah.
was turning.
And it was like the lines didn't matter.
Yeah.
Everything was sort of over the lines. And so you'd have like the jurors, for instance, were just a giant, it almost looked like a thumbprint a little bit. And the lines would kind of move and the circles would sort of stay the same. It was very different. And it kind of had a little bit of sort of an Al Hirschfeld kind of feel to me. I don't know if he's after them or before them or whatever, but like in the Rhapsody in Blue on Fantasia's 2000, the way that those kind of character designs, they're sort of long and stretched out a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of like the New Yorker designs to me. And the Witness, when the Witness comes on, he was just like a giant oval over the animation, which was cool, I thought. And a lot of a lot of these coming up, including Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol, the animation, the backgrounds will just be one flat color.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the case, and then so you just see, so it'll go from being red to being brown to being gray, and then so you just see the lines, and then you just see the pop of color on the characters, so their shoes or their bow or something like that. And it's really always interesting to see what they decide to color and what they leave kind of the monochrome background.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
Really interesting decisions I thought they made. And again, classic UPA style, just so simple but really complex.
Yeah, and I really like Thurl Ravenscroft here. Voice of Johnny.
So great to hear these voices.
Yeah, I mean, we think of him immediately with "You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch."
Right.
Which I'm not sure when that came out, but you hear that voice and you think of it immediately. But yeah, he's really great here, perfect. And this is the one that lost out to Tom and Jerry's 6th award-winning cartoon, The Two Musketeers. So there we go.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
And
this one, I thought some of the backgrounds, yes, they were that color, but they also had like almost a little bit that they were looking like it was on tin, kind of. There was a little crusty kind of feel to some of them.
Yes.
I liked.
I like that too. In fact, that's what I was wondering about. Well, I sure wish I could talk to one of these artists. They could talk to us about how
I know.
Yeah, how they did that.
Yeah, I wish that we could have somebody who really knows their, that's a true animator. Because I feel sometimes I'm like, am I describing it well enough? With my, but I'm sure they'd have a whole new insight. But yeah, she claims that the bullet actually came from Johnny from way over as it kind of pinged it off of all these different stuff from way the other side of town, and that it landed on the door. So it's quite the claim. And what did you think of Nellie Bile in Blue? That was good.
Everything was good. I think I had a smile on my face the whole time.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Oh, good. It was great. Yeah. And she's found not guilty, and then Frankie shoots the lawyer and says it's wrong to shoot with a Rooty-Toot-Toot. And
so again, kind of dark.
Yeah.
Very adult.
Mm-hmm.
I thought too.
Mm-hmm.
I think again visually pleasing enough that a kid probably would enjoy watching it, but maybe not necessarily understand all the kind of the nuance of it too.
Right. Yeah. I think if you included this in a collection, like say the Walt Disney Studio collection,
Mm-hmm.
where you have something a little bit darker, like the John Henry short or something like that. Like, I think it could work okay. It's pretty. There's murder, and some parents might be too shocked.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Right.
But I still really enjoyed watching it. So maybe older kids, I think, will be fine.
Yeah, I should say something maybe for older.
Because I mean, I don't think that that something like, say, the Telltale Heart, like, I don't think that horror movies are bad as far as for kids. I think you can find ones. It's just finding the right ones that have the right. And knowing your own kid and knowing what he likes and he can handle, he or she.
Yeah. Right.
and but this is also true for adults, like Stanford.
Hello. Like, it's just like exactly.
So the next one is Unicorn in the Garden. And it's a pretty simple little short, but I thought it was cute.
Oh, it was so fun.
Yeah.
James, it's based on a James Thurber piece, and he's just so witty and clever, and I enjoyed this one a lot.
Me too. It was really cute. It's basically about this man who sees a unicorn in his garden, and he's really excited about it, and his wife doesn't believe him, so he ends up going to a psychologist, but he sort of turns things on his wife, who ends up being the one that end up in the straitjacket.
That's right. They haul her off.
Yeah. And it's very pencil-y animation.
Uh-huh.
But I really liked when, again, you have this all brown, all white kind of look, and the way it used colors, I thought was really cool.
I thought so too, because pretty much every different space they'd go into, the garden or the bedroom or the house, it just had this very monochromatic background, and then you just mentioned just kind of these little hand-drawn things. I love the garden. I love the unicorn design. I thought that was very interesting, and not to mention the character design too. I mean, the wife really comes across as pretty horrible, which I guess was maybe the point.
Yeah. It reminded me a little bit of in Make Mine Music, the short with everybody dancing.
Yes.
Kind of reminded me of the style of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Ego Psychology. That was funny.
Yeah.
And I liked that he was orange, surrounded by all this purple.
I liked it too. Again, the character designs were all really great, weren't they? Yeah.
And then they turn on the light, and it goes it becomes green, which I thought was cool.
Oh, I thought so too.
All of these use lighting and shadows really well to make interesting choices, and that is something we've kind of lost with CGI animation, even the really good CGI animation. You don't get as much that sort of use of shadows the way that you can, because it's all so realistic. It all just feels like part of realism, and so like the shadowing isn't really part of art in most of them.
Yeah, and
part of making it look realistic.
Reading about the studio more, in preparing for this, it was interesting to hear that. I mean, clearly that was something that they were after as artists there at UPA, because many of them came from Disney, and Disney, the art was so focused on detail and almost like an enhanced realism, right? Whereas this, then, they just are using. It's also it seems very experimental with their character design and with the perspective, depth of field within the frame, and
there's a lot of really
freeing.
There's a lot of really great examples of that in early Disney. And we immediately thought of how Dumbo uses it with the shadows of the of circus performers, and the other there's other scenes where all you see is shadow, and so much kind of what is going on. And even with Timothy Q. Mouse being so little, but obviously with a big shadow. And Elephants on Parade uses color and shadow, obviously.
Yeah.
That's one. I also think of in the Night on Bald Mountain, I think uses shadow. Interesting. But yeah, that's just something I'm trying to think of, something with CGI animation that, I mean, the only thing I can think of is maybe something like Paperman, that's a little bit more of a mixture of traditional, because when you're trying to be hyper realistic, it just looks like shadows. It's not part of the artistic expression.
Yeah.
In the same way.
Right. Another thing that was made me think of too was, you know how in Inside Out, how they go into that one.
Oh yeah, the abstract thought.
That abstract thought.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that, and guess not a lot, not particularly a lot of use of shadow in there, but it really looked to me that they were using CGI, but in a really unusual way. But I thought it really worked well, and as striking as it was, you know, could almost be considered almost like a CGI version of a UPA style, you know.
Yeah, that's a good example. That's a good example, for sure. Yeah. So this one was just cute and fun, and hey, he gets his revenge, and they say, "Don't count your boobies before they've hatched."
Again, classic James Thurl.
So next we have Big Tim.
Yeah.
And this was really interesting because it's
an ad.
Commercial. It's a commercial.
Yeah. It's like or like a commercial / like a corporate film, because UPA did a lot of that, right? They did a lot of commercials as well as, like, you know, just probably one-offs with different companies, right? That needed an educational film or a sales film or something. This to me seemed like a real sales pitch for ball bearings.
Yeah.
of all things.
Roller bearings.
Yeah, roller bearings.
Keep you from kid friction. Kid friction is making things, all kinds of problems. Kid friction. With Big Tim. And
Big Tim is a train.
Yes. And I thought he was so weird looking, like in a cool way, but it was like, I've never seen a train like that in my life.
Yeah, and this almost seemed like it was, again, I know we're talking about a lot, kind of like a blending of styles, but it seemed like it really was a combination of the UPA style and almost like a Disney style too, you know, as far as some detail and depth. But yeah, that was one messed up looking train. Yeah, in my mind.
It did. It looked like, I don't know. It was like a locomotive that carries people almost, but like in the way that it was like a monorail. It almost looked like a monorail at the top.
Yeah.
And then obviously individual compartment. What are they called?
Yeah, cars or compartments.
Cars, cars. Yeah. A hot box, and they're trying to ruin the train. Kid friction, but in the new train, Kid friction can't get a grip on the new freight line because every car had roller bearings except the caboose.
Yeah.
Right. So this one, it was interesting. It was really interesting. It's voiced by Stan Freberg, voiced Big Tim, and he's the enemy of Mr. Friction.
Yeah. And it was kind of long. It was one of the longer ones, which I thought was interesting that again, this, you know, company,
I know,
this ball bearings company, kind of fork out the money for like this big long.
Yeah. I think the trains were more popular in that area. You think you had, right? I think in the 1950s was when we got them, the little engine that could.
Okay. Yeah.
You know. So, you know, as far as a book, yeah, it's interesting. Okay, then we have Gerald McBoing Boy.
Yes. Now that's one, and I just was racking my brain. This was the only one that I had seen of these that we watched.
I guess there was a whole series.
Yes, and I think there's also been a remake, like a revival of this character too.
Oh,
within
really?
within the last 10, 15 years. Yeah, I saw that too.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway,
2005 to 2007. Cartoon Network. There you go. Look at that.
Yeah.
So this was fun. This is a little boy who only speaks in radio sound effects. And so he goes bong or bing or all different sounds.
Yeah, all these different sounds, and that's what's coming out of his. Yeah, these actually, it's not like a human making the noises. They're like getting these sound effects right from another like the source.
And at first they try to get him to go to school, and he gets sent back saying, we can't have a kid named who goes bong bong bong.
And the mom and dad are just getting so discouraged or so sad because they just don't know how to help their son,
Yeah. And this was really interesting where they used the colors because it was almost all the same as the background.
Yes.
Except for there would be like him somebody wearing a coat or somebody wearing, Gerald would be all the same color except for his shirt or something like that, which was interesting.
I almost felt like this was and maybe just because I was also looking at probably a better digital transfer of it, but it just seemed like the quintessential UPA short, as far as just like kind of lighter in tone and then just they just really captured their visual style, with use of color and character design.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. It was really cute and really funny at the end that he ends up getting hired at the radio station.
Yeah. And everybody's happy, it's like mom and dad are happy because they're like, oh yay,
you can do the radio plays.
Right. That's so funny.
Yeah. All right. So Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol. And I had seen this. Like I said, I already reviewed it. But
I have never seen it. I'm just like, where have I been? I guess I'm just too busy watching Charlie Brown and the Grinch.
So this first aired in 1962, and it was actually the first animated Christmas special to be produced especially for television. So it was a really important one in that way.
Yeah.
And it was actually
40 minutes or something. So it would be an hour special.
And this was actually before the series of Mr. Magoo. This show that came later, and they have a kind of setup where he's on his way to a Broadway show for Christmas Carol, and he can't see very well, and so he gets in crashes and all kinds of problems, and then it changes. So you have that introduction, which is so cool. Like I love all the marquees, the way it starts.
I love that too.
It looks so cool, and again, it has kind of that Al Hirschfeld, like you see in Rhapsody in Blue in Fantasia 2000.
Fantasia 2000.
And I love that look. And it starts in with that it's supposed to be a play, is Christmas Carol. And I think they make some interesting choices, as somebody who is a Christmas Carol aficionado. It's always interesting to me to kind of look, do they include this? Do they include this? Do they include this? And one of the weirdest parts about this is that they do present first. For some reason. That was an interesting, and I don't know why they do.
Yeah.
They just want to get right to the Cratchits and Tiny Tim. And
because there's the big musical number in there too.
Before when we're just getting introduced to the story, we get Ringle Wrangle, and the music was done by the same people who did Bells Are Ringing on Broadway.
It's Julie Stein. So Bells Are Ringing, Gypsy, Funny Girl.
Yeah, and I really
He's
like the music.
The music is really charming, and Julie Stein also, wrote the music for Gentlemen for Blondes. He's really a great composer, I think.
I love Bells Are Ringing. I think even the movie I love. I know some people don't like. I love it, and I love the show. I think it's so fun.
Yeah.
With I'm going back where I can be me. I love that song so much.
Bonjour, Tristan.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, and I just love all the backgrounds in this whole thing are so cool, and especially once we get up to future, when you just see it's just it looks like it's almost like scratches in the background of all these different colors, and it looks so cool. I'm not explaining it very well, but I love the backgrounds are so vivid in this.
I totally agree, and I was so impressed with the animation. And I mean, true confessions, Mr. Magoo is not my favorite character. I don't particularly love those Mr. Magoo cartoons that much.
Yeah.
But this really worked for me because you only got like the kind of the quote unquote Mr. Magoo, who's always just because
he can't see.
He can't see. And so it's all the havoc that he's wreaking on either end of it. And then none of that happens during the Christmas Carol part. And so I love that.
I mean, I think I would have
liked it regardless of the art. So
yeah. Good. I mean, I'm no expert on Mr. Magoo, but I think it's a little bit not PC these days for, people visually impaired to just be kind of made fun of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. In this case, it's really only just that very beginning where he has the crash and stuff. For the rest of it, it's just your pretty basic.
It's Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
And what did you think of raspberry dressing? Did you just want to have some?
Tiny Tim, I was so happy he finally got some. I was like, Tiny Tim better get some of that raspberry dressing.
Yeah. We'll have the Lord's bright blessing and raspberry dressing.
And what cracked me up about Tiny Tim too, I thought he looked like Gerald McBoing Boing.
Yeah, he did. That's true.
Almost like identical to Gerald McBoing Boing.
Yeah. But I really like both of the spirits in the main two spirits. Not as much future, but
yeah,
that they look kind of translucent.
Exactly. I really like that a lot. And same, I thought that the animation of Jacob Marley was effective too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
he looked kind of cellophane,
translucent, and it looked really neat against just those really cool, those wonderful UPA backgrounds that we've been raving about the whole episode.
I love Alone in the World, Young and Old Scrooge. I think it's such a sweet song.
Yeah.
Tender song. And then you have the Fezziwig scene. They also have the Benefactors. It opens up with
just classic Christmas Carol. Yeah.
Sometimes that gets cut depending on the version.
Right. I thought it was interesting, when it started. Okay, cool. they kept it in.
Yeah, because sometimes they include Nephew Fred, sometimes they don't. So in this case, they didn't. Sometimes, and it's fun to me because one year I watched over 35 versions. This was 2014. I watched over 35 different versions of Christmas Carol.
That's amazing.
And this is when I just started my blog, and it's kind of fun because I feel like it's sort of like giving out a prompt to a bunch of students. Say 30 students, you give them a prompt, say write a story. Here's your prompt or your characters that you have to write on. And then each person kind of comes up with their own story based on that prompt, right? And that's what it's kind of like with this is it's sort of like all these different creators being given a prompt, and you get to see what one person does with it with CGI animation, what one person does with it with black and white, film, somebody a silent film. And I think it's fascinating. I really love it. And And so this is, just another sort of version to sort of throw in there. And I'm by no means a purist when it comes to Christmas Carol. I don't mind things that go sort of away from the book. The only thing that's peculiar about them doing present first is I just don't really think I don't really understand it.
Yeah, I was very confused by it too, because I was thinking, well, are they going to eliminate? I mean,
yeah,
they're not going to show past,
right.
and I think, like, excuse me, that's a really important part of this
Yeah, and I feel like it
story.
makes more sense to have past first, because
Oh, absolutely.
that's what gets Scrooge invested in the story, because I feel like he's too bitter to see present first.
Yeah.
He needs to see. They just must have really wanted that Razzleberry song.
I think
first.
it was the Razzleberry song. I mean, that's all I could think about too. And again, that's where I really wish we could talk to the filmmakers, because that just seemed like they put that there because they felt they knew that's where they needed a song.
Yeah.
So,
but
went on.
I love Winter Was Warm. I think that is such a beautiful song.
The songs are really great. Again, Julie Stein. There's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Winter Was Warm. The Belle sings about the breakup. It's just it's beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful, and the animation's beautiful in that section. Then you see Past leaving him, and he's laughing at him, which is pretty creepy. And then you see Future, and another thing that some versions show ignorance and want, some of them don't. It's just, you obviously have to have present there in order to show ignorance and want, because it's under his garments. But but I like that when they do it. And then there's even like really, really obscure stuff, like in the book there's a whole scene where Scrooge is taken to a lighthouse, and you get to see how the lighthouse keeper observes Christmas, and one of the only ones that actually shows that is the 2009 one, the animated one, which is very accurate to the book. Anyway, so it's just also the Patrick Stewart version shows the lighthouse. And there's a whole time when he's talking about where Scrooge asks the ghost about the parishioners at church on Sunday and how they're making people work by going to dinner or whatever, lunch after services, and isn't that breaking the Sabbath, and what the spirit says. That's almost never in there, but that's in 2009 version, and a few others. And so it's just fun once you become kind of a Christmas Carol aficionado. You can sort of be like, oh, that one includes that one includes this one. And like the Muppets one, it actually is very faithful. It actually includes a ton of the actual passages of the book that Gonzo playing Dickens that he says. And in the case of Mickey's Christmas Carol, which we covered for Obscure, they I don't think they even have present. I think it's just past and future because it's short. Anyway, it's very, very interesting how they all, I mean, you take this one thing and you see so many different interpretations. And so but I love Winter's Warm, and you get, then once you're in future, that another thing that sometimes gets left out is the pawn shop. Sometimes people do it, some people don't. And here you get We're Despicable at the pawn shop. Old Joe runs the pawn shop, and that one's kind of fun. We're Despicable.
I thought that was a fun too.
And then you see the Cratchits without Tim, and that's always sad.
That's always so sad. Poor tiny Tim.
Yeah, and like I said, I loved the whole scene in the cemetery, the way that the backgrounds are all animated,
weren't they gorgeous?
So cool.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah,
and I think they do. I call it Crazy Scrooge when he is reborn, and I think they do this one pretty well, Crazy Scrooge, where he's delightful lad, sweet lad.
Yeah.
Go get the turkey as big as me. Bring it here. And then you see the kid and his brain explodes when he hears half a crown.
Yes.
Funny. It's very funny. And so I love this version of Christmas Carol. I think it's really fun. And so yeah, I liked all of these shorts. I don't know, it's so hard to say which one's my favorite because I like them all. But I don't know. I think probably the Telltale Heart is probably the most artistically significant of all of them, I would say.
Yeah, I thought so too. That was the one that had the real gravitas and just that was so unique.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting.
Yeah.
And then probably my next favorite behind that would be Gerald McBoing. I just really love that.
Yeah,
one.
that was funny.
That's just so cute.
Do you have a favorite version of Christmas Carol, out of curiosity, that you watch every year? It's your version.
I of course, because I'm Stan, I love the classic movie versions. I prefer the I believe it's the 1938 one with Reginald Owen.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I believe that's the year. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one that I like. I think probably because that's the one my parents liked. That's the one we would always watch.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
What about
that's a good one?
And I also love Scrooge the musical with Albert Finney.
Yeah, that one, they go to hell, which is a lot, but
it's scary. It scared me to death, as you can imagine. So a child.
That one's fun. I love the 1951 Alistair Sim version. Is probably
I know that's the one. I think most classic movie fans like that one. I just prefer the 1938 one, and again, I think some of it's just because my
But yeah,
my upbringing.
No, I mean they're all good. I think they do a pretty good job giving some background to Scrooge in that one that I like, kind of fleshing out his backstory a little bit of kind of why he ended up becoming who he is. So I like that, but I also really like the Patrick Stewart version. I think it's way underrated, and they really capture the snivelings. Covetous old sinner. They really capture that, like, because some of them there's sort of a wink in the eye, kind of a, like Michael Caine is very sort of, there's a wink in the eye. He's a little sarcastic. Certainly, obviously, Bill Murray in something like in Scrooged, or in versions like that, there's a little wink in the eye. Mm-hmm. But in the Patrick Stewart one, he is just sniveling, awful, horrible, like the worst. And I really, and that one is very true to the book, which I appreciate. But anyway, yeah, so it's fun to see what different people come up with such a simple story.
And what I was thinking too, Rachel, was like, who'd have thought that a Mr. Magoo Christmas Carol
I know.
would like be good? Because again, just not being a big aficionado of Mr. Magoo.
Yeah.
I was really delighted. I was very pleasantly surprised how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was way better than I expected as well. And so if you haven't seen it and you love Christmas Carol like I do, you should definitely watch the Mr. Magoo's Christmas Carol. So anyway, there we go. We did it. And we'd be curious to know your thoughts. If you're listening, if you have seen any of these from UPA or any others that we didn't talk about, we would love to hear your thoughts and what you think of the studio. That would be a lot of fun. And so Stanford, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at Stanford Clark, and I also have a movie blog and podcast at moviespastandpresent.com.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So please check that out. And make sure, if you're listening to this episode on iTunes, please leave us your ratings and reviews. It helps us out a lot. And also, if you're listening on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out as well. We have Animation Junkie t-shirts on sale at the merch store. You can check that out. And then we also have our Patreon group, which is a lot of fun as well. We really appreciate that support in the Patreon group. So thanks so much, Stanford. This is really fun. And
thank you.
I really liked this one. And yeah, let us know your thoughts if you're listening. We'll talk to you all later. Let us know if you have any suggestions for obscure animation. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.